Good morning today. Good morning everybody. Today's topic is about the lungs. So let us see the demonstrations of the lung. So this is what lungs are the a pair of respiratory organs which are present in the thoracic cavity. So these are the lung. This is a lung which is present in the thoracic cage. So when you talk about the how the lung, when you touch how it feels, how we feel it, lung when we are touching it, it is crepitous in nature. So when you are touching the lung, it is spongy and crepitous. When you see the color of the lung, I think when you are seeing here, it is some gray color, but at birth these lungs are pink in color. Now at present when you are seeing it, the lung when you are seeing it is having some gray or black because this is because of the inhaled carbon particles. Due to this, the pink color lung which was at birth gradually it forms as a gray in color because of the inhaled carbon particles. So this is about that of what the lungs, how it looks like, what is the color. Coming to the weight of the lung, each lung, it weighs about 700 grams. But when you compare, as we knew, there are a pair of lungs in a thoracic cage. When you compare the right with that of the left lung, the right lung is about 100 grams heavier than that of the left lung. So, for example, if the right lung is actually, they say 700 grams, when you compare it with the left lung, it is 600 grams. So, making this in the point, first we will see that of the side determination of the lung. So, when you have to determine the which side, because there are a pair of lungs, which side the lung belongs to, you have to know some of the features of the lung. So it consists of apex. So this is a feature. So when you have to know about that of the which side that this lung belongs to, whether it belongs to right side or whether it belongs to left side. So how we determine is we have to know that of the parts of the lung, what the external features of the lung consist of. So first we see the features, then we see the side determination, which side is this lung belongs to. So when you see the features, the lung consists of a conical upper part which is called as that of the apex. So when you see, so this is the conical upper part which is that of the apex, which is related to that of the first costal cartilage. It is about 4 centimeters above that of the first costal cartilage, covered by means of that of the pleura, which is called as a suprapleural membrane. So pleura, because both the lungs are covered by means of the pleura, so that is that of the suprapleural membrane. So it is covered by means of the upper membrane, which is the suprapleural membrane. It extends above that of the first rib. Opposite to the apex, what you are seeing, this is a base which is concave, and this surface is called as a diaphragmatic surface. This is diaphragmatic surface because when you see, as we have said, right and left, there are two lungs. The right diaphragmatic surface is related to the right dome of the diaphragm along with the right lobe of the liver. Means first after this diaphragmatic surface, it is related to, so this is a base, the base which is concave first lies on the top of the diaphragm. Means if the right lung, if it is right lung, it lies in the right dome of the diaphragm. Beneath the right dome of the diaphragm, it is the right side is the liver. So it is related to the right lobe of the liver. If it is the left lung, this inferior surface of the diaphragmatic surface, what we are calling as a base, it is related to the left dome of the diaphragm. Next, after the left dome of the diaphragm, it is a stomach. A part of that of the stomach would be coming on the left side. So this is a relation for that of your base part when it is coming to that of the right and that of the left side. So this part is the lower part. So when you are catching, so that is a diaphragmatic surface which should come at the lower part. This is the apex part which is coming at the upper part. So apex, base. Now after this base come to the borders. So this border, which is very prominent border that you are seeing. So this is the border what we are seeing. So that border is a inferior border of the lung. So this is the inferior border, which is a prominent border which separates the coastal surface from that of the base. So this surface will be coastal, we will be seeing it, but that is the first border, which is the inferior border. The next border is a anterior border. So this border what we are seeing is the anterior border. The anterior border extends from apex, this is the apex, extends downwards, vertically downwards up till the top of the inferior border, up till the inferior border. So it extends from the apex to the inferior border. It is vertical. When you see the anterior border, it is vertical. Now coming to the posterior border. So this border what you are seeing is a posterior border which is extending from the apex to that of the inferior border. But unlike the anterior border, the posterior border is ill-defined border. So this border is ill-defined border which is related to that of the, when you see the posterior border, this posterior border is related to that of the vertebral spaces, intervertebral disc with that of the vertebrae, it will be related. So this is a posterior border which is ill-defined. It is not so prominent as anterior border. You can see it is not well defined, unlike that of the anterior border which is well defined border. You can say the border is very well defined. As inferior and anterior, both borders are well defined, but when you see the posterior border which is related to the vertebrae, it is a ill-defined border. So that border is a posterior, inferior border, and this is the anterior border what you are seeing. So these are the three borders. Next, coming to that of the surfaces, lung has two surfaces. The one surface what we are seeing here, this surface is called as the medial surface. So this is the medial surface of that of the lung. So this part what you are seeing is a medial surface. The medial surface of the lung includes the root of the lung. So this is the root of the lung which is present. When you say the root, what is this root actually? The root includes the hilum. So these are the hilar structures. As kidney we say hilum. In the lung also, this is the root of that of the lung which includes the hilum. Within the root is the hilum. So when we say what is the root? The root of the lung is that part which connects this medial surface of the lung to the mediastinum. So it is when we have read the mediastinum thoracic cavity, we have said that that of your mediastinum is divided into anterior and posterior. The posterior is again divided into anterior, middle and posterior mediastinum. So sorry, superior and inferior mediastinum. Next, inferior is again divided into anterior, middle and posterior. So this root of the lung is that which connects, which is a short pedicel like, which is connecting the medial surface of the lung to that of the mediastinum. So that is the definition. So within the root what is present is the hilum is present. So this is what we are seeing is the hilum of that of the lung, with there where in which some structures will be coming and some structures will be going out. We will be seeing later part because our part now is side determination. So after the medial surface, this surface is called as a coastal surface. So this is related to that of your ribs. So it is this surface what we are seeing is the coastal surface extending from anterior border up till that of the posterior border, except the part. So this whole part is a coastal surface which is related to. So this surface is the medial surface. So whole this medial surface which is coming within the medial surface, you will getting the root along with that of the hilar structures. So this is the medial surface of the lung. This surface is a coastal surface. So this is what we are saying, covered by that of the pleura, coastal pleura which is covered, and it is related to. So these all are the impressions what we are seeing are the impressions of the coastal cartilages, means ribs. So these are all the impressions of that of the coastal cartilages, that is a ribs. So that is a coastal surface. This is a medial surface. So one more thing, when we are saying this surface is a medial surface, the medial surface is again divided into two parts. So this part from the anterior border, so the part from that of the anterior border to that of the behind that of the hilum what you are seeing. So that part, so up from here to here, this is called as anterior part of the medial surface. Behind the hilum to that of the posterior border. So this is called as vertebral border or vertebral part or the vertebral surface of the medial surface. So medial surface, when you are saying, it is divided into two things. So up till that of the hilum, it is the anterior or the mediasternal surface. So this surface is the mediasternal surface. This is called as the posterior or the vertebral surface. So when we are saying medial surface, the medial surface is divided anteriorly into mediasternal, posteriorly into the top the vertebral surface. So we will see the relations of what is present in the medial and the medial surface and the vertebral surface, but the side determination. So we have, when you are catching, when you have to determine which side this lung belong to, catch the lung in such a way that, so when you are catching the lung in such a way, catch that the lung comes, that is the apical, the apex comes at the upper part. Yes. So this is the vertebral part. So when you have to, at our first point is, with these external features, we have to determine which part, which side the lung belongs to. So catch the lung in such a way that medial surface faces medially. Next, apex comes at the top of the upper part, base to the top of the facing downwards. Yes. Now coming to the top of the borders, anterior border coming anteriorly. So this is the anterior border which faces anteriorly, and this is a posterior border. So this is a posterior border. So when you are seeing it, this is the apex, base, anterior border, posterior border. So this is the right lung. So this is the anatomical position of the right lung. One more, within the right lung, you can see that of the fissure. So there is two fissures. One fissure is called as an oblique fissure. One more is called as a transverse fissure or the horizontal fissure. Because of this fissure, whole of the right lung is divided into three lobes, upper, middle and the lower lobes. But when you are saying side determining the lung, don't determine the lung basing on the top of your lobes. Determine basing on the top of your external features, that is the apex, base, inferior border, anterior border. Next, what you will be seeing is the posterior border. So please go on with this part, medial surface. One more, this surface is that of the costal surface. So this lung is the right lung. Next, so what we are seeing the next, the lung is that of the left lung. So when you are seeing here left lung, one thing I need to say here, you can see here the right lung and this as that of the left lung. When you are seeing the right lung is wide. It is wide but shorter. It is wide. When you are seeing, it is wide and it is shorter. But when you are seeing the left lung is narrower, longer and narrower. It is long and narrower. So that thing you can see, the demarcation between the right and left lung is not only the fissures are what you are seeing. Actually now you have seen the two fissures which are present on the right lung, that is the oblique and the horizontal fissure. But don't determine the lung based on the fissure. I am repeating it because there might be the fissures on the top of the left side also. So whenever you are determining the which side the lung belongs to, determine along with the external features with that of the hilar structures. So next I will be saying the hilar structures also. Let us see the how we are saying what are the external features of the left lung and how do you say, how you determine that of the, this is the left lung. So when you are seeing the left lung, as right lung, the external features the apex and the base. So this is the base, this is the apex part. So that is the base or that of the inferior part. So this border, what you are seeing is the anterior border. So the difference between the right and the left lung, there is the border difference, anterior border differs of the right and the left lung. Then this is the posterior border of the left lung. So this border what you are seeing is a posterior border. When you are seeing the left lung anterior border, you can see some elevation what you are seeing. So there is a elevation, there is a depression and there is again a tongue like elevation what you are seeing. So this depression what you are seeing is called as that of the cardiac notch. So this is what you are seeing here. So this is the anterior border. The anterior border, unlike the right lung, is not straight. When you are seeing, it is vertically straight, but in the left lung there is a notch here. So this notch is called as a cardiac notch. After the cardiac notch, you can see the left anterior border is extending downward as a tongue-like extension. So this tongue-like extension is called as lingula. So basing on this feature also, you can identify whether it is a right or the left lung. So remember, on the anterior border on the left lung, there is a notch that is called as a cardiac notch. Followed by the cardiac notch, there is a tongue-like elevation. So this is a tongue-like elevation which is called as lingula is present. So that is the anterior border. So when you are catching, side determining, catch the lung in such a way, apex faces upwards, base downwards. So this is the base which is downward. This is the anterior border. Yes, so this is the anterior border of the left lung, and that border what you are seeing is a posterior border, and beneath is that of the inferior border. So this is what you are seeing is that of the left lung. So this is that of the left lung. Unlike the demarcation, so we have seen here anterior border which is having a notch, but unlike when you see the right lung, there is no notch as such. There is no cardiac notch, or there is no what we are calling as that of the lingula is not present in the right lung. So this is also one of the determining feature which determines that of the anterior of the right to that of the left. So when you are catching the lung, catch the lung in such a way, the medial surface faces medially, apex above, base downwards. So this is the anterior border. Catch it as that of the anteriorly. So we are catching on that of your left hand. So this is that of the anterior border. Make it on that of your anteriorly. So this is what is the medial surface. Face the medial surface medially. So this is about that of the features of that of the lung that we have seen. In the next video, we will be seeing that of the other than that of the external features, we will be seeing the medial surface. What are the relations of that of the medial surface? So when you are seeing here, so earlier video what we have said is that of the external features. Along the external features, we have done with of the how to determine that of the lung, means which side the lung belongs to. So that was done in the earlier video. So that is the first part. Now we will see in this video, we will see the relations of that of the medial surface. What the medial surface we have told, up till that of the hilum, means beyond the hilum is that of the anterior part of the medial surface, or the media which is called as the mediastinal surface. Behind that of part, it is called as a vertebral surface. We will be seeing the relations of this on the right and the left lung, medial surface, mediastinal surface relations. Next, along with that, we will see what is that of the hilum. What is the hilar structures? What structures are present in the right lung and what is present in the hilum of that of the left lung. So let us start with that of the hilar structures which is present. So this lung is a right lung, so you can see here, this is a right lung what we are describing. So it consists of, when you are seeing it, so this is that of the bronchus. You can see that of the bronchus. When you are seeing the bronchus, so this is thick. This is a thick bronchus which is consists of, the thick bronchus is made up of the hyaline cartilage. So this is the hyaline cartilage. So this bronchus is called as a principal bronchus, as this lung is a right lung. So this is the right principal bronchus. You can see the thickness of the bronchus which is very thick because of that of the hyaline cartilage. One more thing in that, so this is the thickness, what you can see, thickness. So in the bronchus, you can see on the right side principal bronchus, there are two things. One is called as eparterial bronchus, because in relation to that of the artery, why it is called as eparterial bronchus is above it is present in relation to the artery. This is the pulmonary artery. Above the artery, this is present. So it is called as eparterial bronchus. One more beneath, it is called as hyparterial bronchus. This is called as hyp because it is lower than that of the pulmonary artery. Eparterial, hyparterial. Eparterial above the pulmonary artery, so it is called as eparterial. Below the pulmonary artery, it is called as hyparterial bronchus. So these are within the principal bronchus, you come across eparterial and a hyparterial bronchus. So first is a bronchus, thick bronchus. After the bronchus, what you are seeing, this is called as pulmonary artery. This is what you are seeing is a superior pulmonary vein and this is a inferior pulmonary vein. I am repeating it again. I will be repeating again. So this is the bronchus, thick bronchus, which is made up of the hyaline cartilage, which is the right principal bronchus containing eparterial and hyparterial bronchus. Next to the bronchus, what we are seeing is, so this eparterial and that is hyparterial bronchus. This is a pulmonary artery. This is a superior pulmonary vein. This is the inferior pulmonary vein. Whole parietal pleura at the root of the lung. So this is the root of the lung having a bilaminar fold. So this bilaminar fold, what you are seeing. So at parietal pleura covering at the root of the lung extends downwards as a bilaminar fold. This bilaminar fold is called as a pulmonary ligament. So this is called as a pulmonary ligament. This pulmonary ligament consists of loose areolar tissue along with that of the lymphatics are present in that of the pulmonary ligament. The main importance of the pulmonary ligament. So what you are seeing, this pulmonary ligament, the main importance, that fold, bilaminar fold, as we have said, it consists of loose areolar tissue and the lymphatics. So what it is, whenever there is an increased venous pressure, so whenever there is an increased venous pressure, these pulmonary veins expand it, they extend up till this part. So it is helpful for, so these pulmonary veins extend up till the top, the pulmonary ligament. So this is about that of the pulmonary ligament. It is a bilaminar fold, the parietal pleura, which is covering that of the root of the lung, extends downwards as a bilaminar fold, which is called as a ligament. That ligament is called as pulmonary ligament. This ligament consists of loose areolar tissue and lymphatics, which is helpful during the increased venous pressure. You can see the association of the veins very near, that is superior and the inferior pulmonary veins. So whenever there is increased in venous pressure, so the pulmonary ligament is helpful at that part. So this is about that of the pulmonary ligament, the bilaminar fold. So this is the ligament what we are seeing it. So next, after this one, we will see the hilar structures, that hilum what we are saying at the root of the lung, which is connecting the medial surface to the mediastinum. We will see the extension from the posterior to anterior above downwards. What are the things that you will be getting it? So when you are seeing here, yes, when you are seeing the features from the top of the, so this is what we are seeing it. So when you are seeing from posterior to the top of your anterior, what are the things that you are getting it? So from the posterior part, that what is the you are getting is, first is the ligament, that is the bronchus. So this is the bronchus, thick bronchus. After that you are seeing the artery. After that what you are seeing is that of the vein. So from posterior to that of your anterior side. When you see from above downwards, it is bronchus. So this is the eparterial and hyparterial bronchus, artery and that of the vein. So bronchus, artery and the vein from above downwards. From posterior to the anterior, also it is a bronchus, artery and that of the vein. Do remember this, bronchus, artery and that of the vein. But bronchus, there is two bronchus, eparterial and hyparterial bronchus. So when you are telling from above downwards, you have say that of the, first is that of the bronchus. So you say about that of your bronchus on the right side. Next you say about the pulmonary artery. Next again bronchus. Next is that of your vein. So from above downwards, it is a bronchus, artery, bronchus and the vein. But from when you are seeing, from posterior to anterior side, it is a bronchus, artery and the vein. Yes, I think you understand now. Bronchus, eparterial bronchus, artery, bronchus and the vein from above downwards. But when you are coming from the top here, posterior to anterior, bronchus, artery and the vein. Now coming to the relations, the medial relation of that of the lung on the medial surface. What are the relations on the lung? That is the mediastinal surface relations. So the first impression that you are seeing above the hilum or the root of the lung is the arch of azygos. So this is the impression for the arch of the azygos. We'll go back. Yes, so this is the impression for that of the arch of azygos vein. After the arch of the azygos vein, the next impression at this part is the impression for the superior vena cava. So this is the impression for the superior vena cava. Next, so this is the impression for inferior vena cava. Whole at this part is the impression for the cardiac, that is the cardiac impression, that is the impressions of the right atrium along with the right auricle. So here a part of even the ventricle also comes. right atrium, right auricle, a part of the ventricle. Superior vena cava impression, inferior vena cava impression for, next here cardiac impression, impression for that of the azygous vein. Next, behind this part, this is the impression is behind the hilum, this is the impression for the trachea, beyond that one is the esophagus. So, when you are seeing it, so in front at this part, what we are seeing is this part, at this part we are getting the impression for the trachea, followed by that of the esophagus, trachea and the esophagus behind. The nerves which are relating, in front of the hilum it is a right phrenic nerve, behind the hilum it is a vagus nerve in front, behind. So in front is the phrenic nerve, behind is that of the vagus nerve. I am repeating it again ma. So when you are seeing the impression, so when you are seeing the impression, so this is the impression of the azygous vein. So this is the impression for that of your azygous. Okay, it is coming from the posterior side. From the posterior side, no, I want to go from this one. Better, yes. So when you are seeing the impression, so this is the impression for that of the arch of azygous vein. So this is the arch of that of the azygous vein at the upper part, above that of the root. Next, at this part, you will be seeing the impression for that of the superior vena cava. Yes. Next, at this part is the impression for that of the inferior vena cava. So this is the impression for that of the inferior vena cava. Whole this is for the cardiac impression of the right atrium, right auricle, a part of the right ventricle is the impression. So here you get the impressions of that of your right auricle, right atrium and that part of that of the ventricle. Superior and the inferior vena cava, superior and the inferior, right atrium and the right auricle. Next, so this is in front of that of the hilum. Behind the hilum, when you are seeing it, the first impression is a tracheal impression, followed by that of the esophagus impression. Two tubes. Next, nerves are, in front is the phrenic nerve, behind is that of the vagus nerve, that is the right vagus nerve. So these are the two nerves which are related. Other than that, the apex part, the upper part, it is related to the right subclavian artery at the apex part. So right subclavian artery is related. So those are the impression for that of the medial surface of that of the right lung. When you see the medial surface of that of the left lung, so this is the hilum of the root of the lung of the left lung, which consists of, this is what your vein is, a superior pulmonary vein, inferior pulmonary vein, this is the inferior pulmonary vein, what you are seeing it, extending downwards as a bilaminar fold which is called as pulmonary ligament. This is a pulmonary artery, so this is a pulmonary artery. This part is a principal bronchus, that is a left principal bronchus we are coming across. So within the hilum are the root of the lung. Some structures will be coming and going out. So these are the veins, superior and the inferior pulmonary vein. This is the bronchus, left principal bronchus. The artery is this is the artery which is called as that of the pulmonary artery. So in the left lung, when you are saying it from above downwards, it is a pulmonary artery, bronchus and the vein. So from above to the downwards, it is artery, bronchus and the vein. But in the right, it was bronchus, artery, bronchus and vein. But here it is artery, bronchus and that of the vein. Do remember this part in the hilum. This is the part what you are seeing in the hilum. Now coming to the impressions of the medial surface. So above the root, what is the impression? Is the arch of aorta. So this is the impression arch of aorta which is extending downwards as descending thoracic aorta. So this is the impression which is extending downwards as, so in this way it will be going on. So this is the impression for descending thoracic aorta. Arch of aorta, descending thoracic aorta. So this part is the impression for the cardiac impression. Mainly on the left side, the impression is mostly it is the left ventricle along with the part of pulmonary trunk. So at this part you will be getting also the pulmonary trunk, you will be getting it. When you see behind the two tubular structures, yes, it is that of the esophagus, trachea along with the thoracic duct we will be seeing it, but esophagus and trachea would be coming at this part also behind that of the hilum. Nerves as such is in front is the phrenic nerve, behind is the left vagus nerve. Left phrenic nerve in front, left vagus nerve, along with the left vagus there is one more nerve which is called as that of left recurrent laryngeal nerve. So these are that of in front and behind. Now coming the impression, the upper part, it is related to that of the left subclavian artery at the upper part. When you are seeing it, yes, this is that of the upper part. So this is related to the left subclavian artery at the apex part. So this is a medial surface relation at that of the upper part. When you see on the costal surface of the left lung, the costal surface of the left lung consists of a fissure. So this is an oblique fissure. This oblique fissure, when you are seeing it, it is dividing into two lobes. So it is that what it is dividing into two lobes, that is a superior. Because of this fissure, it is dividing into superior lobe and that of the inferior lobe. So this fissure is an oblique fissure which is extending from, so that when you are seeing it, the oblique fissure, it is extending from the about 6 centimeters below that of the apex. It will be extending to that of the inferior border. So this is called as a fissure which cuts whole of the lung except the hilum. When you are seeing, this is an oblique fissure which extends about 6 centimeters below the apex up to that of the inferior border. It cuts whole of the lung tissue except that of the hilar tissue, dividing whole of the left lung into that of the two lobes, superior lobe and the inferior lobe. The main important function of this oblique fissure is when the lung expands, the lung normally expands downwards. The expansion is given by that of the oblique fissure. As we have discussed, in the anterior border of the left lung, there is a tongue-like projection which is called as a lingula is present. But when you see in the right lung, there are two fissures. One fissure is a transverse fissure, one more is a oblique fissure. When you see these fissures, so this fissure is a transverse fissure. This is called as a oblique fissure. The transverse fissure extends from anterior border, yes, from the anterior border to the top of the oblique fissure, means it intersects at the top of the oblique fissure. This, because of this horizontal fissure, your right lung is divided by means of this fissure into that of the middle and that of the upper lobe. And this is what is the oblique fissure, which is extending obliquely from the posterior border to the top of the inferior border. So you can get the upper lobe, middle lobe and that of the lower lobe. The pattern of the concern is, so when you are saying the determination of the lung, I have kept the fissures in the last part. So when you are seeing the lung, I have kept the fissures in the last part. Don't say with the fissure, I am repeating it, because the right lung is having 3 lobes. Don't say, yes, this is the right. If it is 2 lobes, it is a left lung. Determine with the external features, that is the apex, base, anterior border, anteriorly. When you see determine the difference between the anterior border of the right and the left lung. On the right side, means on the right side anterior border, you can see there is it is vertically straight. It doesn't have any notch. When you see, unlike in the left lung, on the left lung, the anterior border consists of a cardiac notch. The cardiac notch is again followed by that of the lingula. This is one thing which you can determine whether it is a right lung or the left lung. One more thing also, it is conspicuous only. You can see, when you see the right lung is wider when compared to the left lung. It is narrower, long and that of the narrower. One more is the weight. Again, the weight you can't determine, but when you see it, when you catch it in the hand, the right lung weighs a little bit more than that of the left lung. So by these features, and other than that, when you see the hilar structures at the hilum of the right lung, see the epiarterial and hyparterial bronchus. So above the pulmonary artery you will be going it. So this is the pulmonary artery. You will be going above the pulmonary artery. So when you see the lumen itself, when you see the thickness itself, you can identify. So this is the medial surface. You can identify not only with that features, even you can identify with these features also. Actually we say it is better to identify with that of the hilar structures. So see that of the thickness. So identify the bronchus first. After the bronchus, it is easy to identify the artery and the vein. So this is a bronchus which is lined by means of which is the thickness is because of the hyaline cartilage. See for that of your epiarterial and hyparterial bronchus which is present above the artery. Yes, because of that you can say, yes, this is a right lung. If that is not a feature, if that feature is not present on the lung, only single bronchus means artery is present, followed with the bronchus. Next, a vein is present. Yes, because of that we can say as that as a left lung. So these are the things that you have to know it when you determining that, because that is the most important thing which side the lung belongs to. So these are the lung. So before winding out my class, I would like to say the features of the lung again. Only the external features. This is the apex. This is the base. This border what you are seeing is the anterior border of the lung. So this is the anterior border. This border what you are seeing is the posterior border of the lung. Yes. So this surface is that of the medial surface. Up till that of the hilar is this medial surface is again divided into anterior part and the posterior part. Up till this anterior part is called as medial sternal surface. Behind that it is called as a vertebral surface. Normally we ask the question as, say the relations of mediasternal surface of, it might be right or that of the left lung. Next, coming to the surfaces, other than medial surface is divided into mediasternal and the vertebral part. There is one more surface which is called as costal surface, which is related to that of the ribs. Yes. So these are the relations. When you are coming to that of the relations on the medial surface, it is very easy when you are studying on the right side and the left side what is present. So on the right side it is a right auricle with the part. So you have to say on that of your right lung impressions for the superior vena cava and the inferior vena cava, along with, because veins are coming on the right side. So when you are saying it is only the vein that is azygous vein, superior vena cava, inferior vena cava on the right side. So you are saying in this way, when you are coming the tube, it is the esophagus and the trachea which is coming on that of the posterior part. Along with that of your two nerves, these are the two tubes. Two nerves are, in front is that of the right phrenic nerve, behind is that of the right vagus nerve. So this is on that of the right side. When you go to the left side, what is present on the left side? The left side is, again the arch is present, that is the aorta is present, extends downwards as a descending thoracic aorta. So this is the main important. When you come to the cardiac impression, because that is the left side, it should be the left ventricle. It is not the auricle. It is the left ventricle only the part, but it is the left ventricle is the mostly important on the left side. Other than that, the tubular structure is, when you have said on the right side, it is the esophagus and trachea, but on the left side, along with, yes, esophagus is present, trachea, esophagus, next is a thoracic duct. So left side, remember there is also one more, it is a duct, that is a thoracic duct. So these are the three tubular structures on the left lung. Coming to the nerves, unlike the right lung, there are two nerves, that is the vagus and the phrenic, but coming to the left side, it is phrenic nerve in front, behind is a vagus, that is a recurrent laryngeal nerve, left recurrent laryngeal nerve. Yes, so this is about the lung. If you have any doubts, do give you can WhatsApp or you can call. Thank you ma. Stay safe, stay secure.